Yet none of them was available to make the trip for Paul. Paul said, I searched and I cannot find anybody who's just like me. He says, nobody who cares for me except a young man by the name of Timothy. So Paul says in the letter to the church of Philippi, get ready because I'm sending him to you because he's just right for the job. Well, what is it that makes Timothy just right for the job? Let me just share with you real quick. I'm going to let you go. That first of all, Timothy was Christ-centered. It's right here in Philippians 2 and 21. Paul says, for all them seek of their own, not the things that are about Jesus Christ. Paul says here that I look at other preachers. And yes, they're preaching, but it seems like to me that they got a little vainglory in them. He says they're doing a whole lot of hooping, but not saying nothing at all. Amen. But he said, I looked at Timothy, and he is Christ-centered. In other words, his agenda was not his position. His aim was not his prosperity. His ambition was not his popularity. Don't that sound like somebody here tonight? Well, let me talk about Timothy and use him as an example as I talk about John Whichard right here. Let me tell you what I think why John Whichard is right for the job. Many of you that know anything about him know that he's a pastor at his heart. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. But he continues in prayer and he asks God to lead him all the time. And Holy Temple, there was a day when Holy Temple needed a pastor. And the bishop thought that because he sent John Whichard that it was the mandate that was going to happen. But let me tell you what happened. God had already made a decree. And God had already said that I have somebody who's right for the job. See, you understand that churches are many, but pastors are few. Let me say it again because somebody didn't get it. We got many churches, but we ain't got but a few pastors. Let me go down the aisle and say it this way. We got a whole lot of preachers, but we ain't got a whole lot of pastors. See, we got a whole lot of folks who want name recognition. You got a lot of folks who want that name rolled on the signboard. But we only got a few pastors that are humble. A few pastors that don't worry about if you call me bishop or elder. If you call me apostle or reverend this or reverend that. But when you really been called by God, we can call you by the name that your mama named you. And you won't be offended. Y'all know some preachers, you gotta call me reverend this. And you gotta call me reverend that. But I'm simply just calling you what your mama called you. If your mama called you John, why can't I call you John? And so, this is what I call simple math. You got to have the right pastor for the right church. The right pastor for the right church. Don't lie to me. How many of you have ever seen where the wrong pastor was at the wrong church? It's no mathematical problem. It's no subtraction, no division needed. It's when you get the right pastor at the right church, things work out good. I'm so glad today that not only was I a member of the right church, but I found the right pastor. I found the pastor that can really truly care for the well-being of my body. I said again, Pastor Whichard, his agenda was not his position. His aim was not his prosperity. His ambition was not his popularity. any preacher would not do. You see, a few years ago, God said, I got a pastor's position. And I need somebody who's just right for the job. I need to let somebody know who I'm putting in this position. They're willing to bow to what I tell them to do. It was all right that Holy Temple had a search committee. It was all right that Bishop Love sent John Whichard there. But let me tell you, some 50 years ago, God had somebody just right for the job. He was born in May of 19-something. A little boy who was just right for the job. He did not know it yet because he was still an infant. And this was some years later. He didn't know that even while he was going to ECU that God had called him for the job. He didn't realize that 17 years ago, even while he was pastoring Brian Holy Tabernacle and God would start Holy Church, that was not good enough for him. But God said, I have enough work for you to do. He said, I had to call you to another place called Holy Temple. And in December 7th of 2007, God said, I'm ready to call him to this job. And the truth of the matter is, before God had telephones, God had already called Go ahead.